Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Leanna and today we are myth busting, or we're taking statements or things that are happening in our reseller community and we're debunking them and we're making the true sort of message clear. That's what we're doing today. So I have about 5 pieces of advice or things that are happening that I'm going to talk about. If this is the reseller content that you like, I upload every Tuesday and Friday, so don't forget to subscribe. That's it for the commercial. Let's dive in. The first one I want to talk about is just happening now on Whatnot, and it's about the use of copyrighted music. So let me take this the step further. This is what Whatnot has put out. It is a statement about not using copyrighted music. You need to have permission to use whatever music you use in your live stream. If you do not have it, then you are, copyright infringement, intellectual property. It's very similar to the use of stock photos. If you do not have permission to use that photo, then you're breaking the law, period. That's it. What is shocking and what I really want to sort of dive into with this is that the reaction of the Whatnot community about, well, why can't I use that music? I bought that CD, or I pay for Apple Music, why can't I use it? Because it's like, oh my God. If you do not have permission to use somebody else's property, then you can't use it. I mean, hello, it's common sense. Common freaking sense. So I know for me, I'm not a big fan of music in the stream anyway, so no big deal. I don't use music, not a big deal. The reason I bring this up is because Poshmark is doing lives. They are encouraging us to use music. Set the tone, use the music. And if this is happening on Whatnot, I am sure it's going to trickle down into Posh Lives soon enough. What I want to happen is, because Naver has taken over, I want Naver, them being a huge company and in charge of, are they not in charge of some of the music over in Korea and that, like BTS and stuff like that? Give us a music library, a copyright-free library where music can be used in our live shows. That would be amazing, and that would be a step ahead of any other platform. So that's the only reason I bring it up, is to sort of bring it to that truth level of, yeah, you're not supposed to be using copyrighted material, whether it's music or it's stock photos. You're just not supposed to be using it. There's no it is black and white, period. Black and white, you're not supposed to be using it. If you get caught, you get caught. If you don't, you don't. But that's up to you. Anyway, moving on. Number 2, this piece of advice. This is something that I want to take a step further out to actually get to the true meaning of it. When you have a person that says, my sales are so slow, what do I do? The piece of advice that they get 99% of the time is list. Just list. Keep listing. List, list, list. And that's good advice. I'm not going to say it's bad advice, but it's not everything. The number of listings you have doesn't necessarily mean the sales. If I do 1,000 new listings this month, doesn't mean I'm going to get 1,000 new sales. It's more important what you're listing. You want to list what is selling. It's really, really important to make you want to distinguish between the two of them. The number of listings is one thing, and yeah, you know what, being active on the app or on the platforms is really good, but if you're listing garbage and it won't sell, and you're not going to help your sales. Also, if I want to list this compact, and I do my comp search, because you're supposed to be doing your comp searches, saying to myself, I find 1,000 of these listed and available. Okay, there's 1,000. Cool. I go to the sold comps and only 10 have sold. Well, that sell-through rate is crap. Listing this item is not going to help my sales whatsoever. You want to list what is selling. So how do you figure that out? You know what? You look at the season. You look at what's trending. You look at the sold comps. If I have an item that I want to sell, I look at what's available and what has sold and make sure the sell-through rate is really good. That will help my sales. So, for instance, I observed my sales from last year, and I did some, a little bit of a deep dive to figure out, what was good and what wasn't. My slow months were July, August, September type of thing, summer slowdown. But I also realized that I wasn't listing very much. I was averaging about 40 or 50 listings per month, which for me is really, really low. And I thought, okay, light bulb moment. That's why my sales were so down. I wasn't listing very much. Okay, I can learn from that. But then I went to my highest grossing month, which was March, and I only listed 33 items that month. So, I don't know. What I listed maybe in February was that much better and sold in in March. Maybe those 33 items I listed in March were that good that they just kept selling. So I don't know. I still believe that what you're listing is more important than the amount that you're listing. We're at number 3 now. Number 3. So this piece of advice comes about when people talk about returns being open or cases being open and people lying and scammers. This is where this piece of advice always comes up, and that is I video myself packing every single sale that I have. So on the surface, I think this is really bad advice. I think this is a waste of your time on the surface. I don't believe that scammers exist to the extent that we think that they are. They do happen. Scammers exist. Liars exist. Absolutely. You need to be aware of that. And yeah, you do need to protect yourself to a certain degree. But honestly, the number of good customers and good buyers far, far, far outweigh the scammers. They really and truly do. So in order to invest all this time in photographing and video you packing every single last order isn't probably the best use of your time. I'm going to say that. If you are brand new and you want to do this to gain confidence and maybe wait until your reputation is built, I understand that. As somebody who has been reselling for 3.5 years, I will not be doing this. I think it's a waste of time and I don't feel the need of it. However, when I started shipping breakables on Poshmark, I was taking photographs of those packages because Poshmark does not cover sellers who do not package properly and the item breaks in transit. So because I was new at it, I was like, okay, I'm going to cover my butt just to make sure, because I thought I was doing well. I thought my packaging was really good. And it wasn't until I've done it a lot or a few times that my confidence got, raised, and I just stopped doing it. Now I am really confident that I package really well and the items are going to get to where they're going in the right, condition that they're supposed to. Knock on wood. I'm sure there'll be times that, it just happens. So this piece of advice can be good, but I also honestly think it's a waste of time. I don't think you need to worry as much as you think you do about scammers and liars. You need to be aware of them, but you don't need to build your business that everybody is a liar, everybody's a scammer, because that's just not true. Number 4. This is a piece of advice that bigger resellers will give to others that I think is really bad advice, and that is not answering questions. Well, first of all, if you are a volume seller and you sell thousands of items a day and you get hundreds of questions, and all of those questions are about things that are answered in the listings, in the descriptions, I totally understand why you don't have the time to answer the questions and you don't really want to. I understand that, really I do. I also understand that when these questions sometimes are like way out there and it's question after question after question after question, and how many times have this item been worn? It's like, I don't know. Things like that. There's sort of reasonings behind why you wouldn't necessarily answer the question. But in a just normal way, if somebody asks me a question about my listing or about my item, I answer it. Even if the answer is in the description, I still answer the question. Why do I do this? Because I feel it's very important for me as a moderate level seller to make my buyers or my potential buyers feel acknowledged, heard, and important. I want my customers to think they matter, because they do matter to me. I want them to buy my items. So I answer the questions. When the answer is in the listing, I don't say, hey, the answer's in the listing. I answer the question, period. Because I don't want my customers feeling like they're stupid, that they missed something. And I think you run that risk if you just say the answer's in the listing. I don't want to do that. That is a personal preference of mine. But that being said, as a buyer, if I ask a question and you ignore me, I'm not going to buy from you. If I ask a question and you're rude to me, I'm not going to buy from you. I don't care if I really, really, really want that item. I can find it again. That's it. So for me, it's really important to have my customers feel heard, acknowledged, and feel like they matter, period. So I answer all the questions I possibly can. If I get a question that, the answer isn't in the listing, it's like, like somebody wants a hip measurement, for instance. I will measure that hip area and I will add that answer to my listing. That way, even if I relist it, the answer's there. So I'm answering questions that have already been asked, or I'm trying to answer questions that can be asked. And I want all that information in my listing. The more information in your description, the better it is. And yes, customers don't read and they don't look at photos and all that happens. And you know what? It happens. So you know what? For me, I just answer the question for them. That's it. That's what I'm going to say about that. I know for some people, they don't answer questions and they still make sales. Good for you. I'm not buying from you, but good for you. The last one I'm going to talk about, and really this is the one that really started me on this sort of journey of what other things are out there that people say that are just total BS. So usually this comes up with a case being opened and the buyer saying the item doesn't fit me. So Poshmark does have terms and services that say they cannot return for fit. That is true, but what they're talking about is the buyer that receives their item and goes, I just don't like the way it fits me, I want to return it. That's what that is for. If, as a seller, I haven't provided measurements or I have misrepresented the size or the category that the item belongs in, then that buyer could possibly return for fit. It just irritates me that this is the situation. It was on one of my groups, I think it was, or it might have been on Instagram, and the seller said this person wants to return for fit. She's saying I misrepresented blah blah blah. It was a pair of pants, and the buyer said these are not the same size as the rest of my pants or whatever they were. I looked at the original listing, and the pants were listed as we'll say a size 27. That's fine. The tag said 27, but they were men's pants. And they were listed under women's wear. That is a misrepresentation of the size. And if the buyer is savvy enough, they can return for fit in that instance. It's an innocent mistake. I have done that. I have listed things thinking that they were women's, but they were men's. But then I put in the listing, hey, these are men's, but I'm listing them under women's. They haven't sold, but that's okay. So you have to be aware of what that terms of service about fit means, first of all, and you have to make sure that your listings are correct. This even goes into eBay when they say, I have no returns on my I was going to say closet, but that's not eBay, on my store, on my listings. It doesn't matter. If you get an item not as described, you will still be having to maybe make a return on that item if it can be proved that you did not describe it properly. So I'm going to leave you with that. There is no such thing as no returns, especially on Poshmark. And if you're concerned about a case being open for fit, make sure that you have represented the item properly, period. I add all my measurements into listings to help cover my butt with that. And I do try to make sure that I list it correctly. It happens. Sometimes it happens. So you can return for fit if you've misrepresented the item. Remember that. It is not a catch-all phrase. You cannot return for fit. Don't use it as such. This is something that really actually burns my butt because it just does. It's just know the platforms that you're selling on and know what the rules are before you start spouting off. Anyway, that is it for me. Yep, that's it for me. I've done them all. Are there pieces of advice or things you've heard that you think are total BS that you want to talk about? Let us know down below in the comments. Okay, that's it for me. It is Friday. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. We have nothing big planned for the weekend. I think I might make some focaccia. I think that's my goal for Sunday. Anyway, that is it. Everybody have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. Bye.